Hi. So I'm Lauren Landon, and this is the International Space Station. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard that Scott Kelly just got back from living there for a year, right? So this is as big as a football field. The quarters on here for living space, it's about equivalent to a 4-bedroom house. So Scott was really living in a luxury accommodation for space. But we're starting here. So imagine yourself on a team of about 4 to 6 of your closest work colleagues, and you're stuck in Winnebago for 2.5 years. Okay, you can't talk real time to your friends and family because you're so far away from Earth, there's a communication delay of over 20 minutes. You can't look down on Earth, you can't see nature, you can't see your home, you're having no evacuation options, you have to work out 2 hours a day because your body's deconditioning due to the microgravity. And so there's a lot of discomfort involved. But this is what we're planning for the mission to Mars, right? So, of course, our Winnebago is going to be a little bit nicer, hopefully, but that's the scenario. And so having a cohesive work team on this mission is not just a nice to have, it's something we absolutely have to get right. And so we have great people working on this, and today I wanted to talk about a couple of maybe surprising things to you guys that we care about for this mission. So first off, astronauts are somebody when they come to NASA. So they're already amazing, accomplished scientists. They have, lots of degrees. They're military pilots. We had one guy who was playing in the NFL and getting his master's in engineering on the side, and then he became an astronaut. So kind of a high-achieving population here. So when we're trying to find these high achievers, we want leaders, obviously, and we need leaders in this space, but we also want a very diverse set of skills and expertise for this mission. And one important aspect of this is they have to be a team of leaders. So because there's this diversity of expertise, the right person needs to step up when their skills are most critical to that task at hand. So the spacesuit gloves are extremely hard to manipulate. People often strain their hands, they rub their fingers raw. So of course, in that space, the medical doctor would easily become the leader. So some of these are very obvious switches. But we're not just talking about leadership here, we're also talking about leadership and followership. So we're selecting great people, right? They're great leaders when they walk in the door, but we also need them to be very team-oriented. So if you're going to be in an enclosed space, you want them to be a very cohesive team. And we bring them to Johnson Space Center, all these highly qualified applicants, about 50 of them, and we put them through some hands-on team exercises. So we actually, you could think of it as a ropes course. And we're observing them and we're seeing how they're leading when they're working in these teams together, but we're also observing how they're able to step back and follow when needed. So it's very competitive, right? Everyone wants to be an astronaut. So for some people, stepping back into a follower role is very difficult, but that's what we're looking for. We need that balance. And we also train them when they get to Johnson Space Center. So we have 18,000 applicants this round. We'll pick about 10 to 12. Those 10 to 12 people will then be exposed to different extreme environments. So we have an undersea habitat where they're able to practice these leadership skills. We have a Johnson Space Center habitat called Hera. And right now we're doing research where people are in there for 30 days at a time, and we're investigating how teams are doing in this space. And astronauts do crazy, amazing things, like they go on caving expeditions together and practice these team skills. So it's really mimicking these extreme environments that they're going to experience on their missions. And of course, when they get to Mars, we need them to be able to self-correct. So remember, there's that communication delay. They're not able to talk to mission control in real time. So we need them to be able to have leadership and have leadership switches. So it might be a geologist is in charge, kind of your day-to-day on Mars. So go over here, collect this volcanic rock, process this sample. But if an emergency crops up, okay, now we need to make a switch, and we need to make it seamlessly, and we can't have performance loss because any delay could really be a big, dire consequence. So if a solar panel goes out, maybe the electrical engineer needs to step up at that time, and everybody needs to step back and follow their lead. Well, everyone, when they're stepping back, they're not just doing whatever that person says. It's a proactive followership. So you're offering recommendations, right? You're challenging that leader. You're asking the dumb questions, and that means you have to have a very safe space in which to ask those dumb questions and to throw out different ideas. So creating that psychologically safe team is very important to this process. And what we're trying to do is also train this intact team so that they feel this cohesion, this safe space long before they launch on this mission. We don't want them trying to figure this out when they're up there. They need to be an intact team before they go. So another wrinkle in this, and this is probably a little bit different than most of your workplaces, is they're also living together. So they're not just working during the day and going home to their families at night, they're roommates. So on Space Station right now, they have, obviously it's a very big space. They have a big 4-bedroom house there. They also have these little private crew quarters, and they have a door, they can zip them up. It's about the size of a portalette. And they have personal items in there, they have privacy. Space shuttle missions were about 2 weeks long, and so you can live with anyone for 2 weeks, that's what the astronauts claim. But Mars, of course, very confined space, 2.5 years, so all those day-to-day hassles are really gonna maybe cause a little bit of friction. So if you have a person in your co-working group, and that maybe their tick is that they clear their throat a few times a day. Well, you hear it now, every time for 2.5 years, right? So of course, we're selecting these amazingly resilient people, right? But they're human, astronauts are even human. And so some of these frictions are gonna need to be dealt with, and we're actually training them on how to live together and how to be roommates. So how many people maybe would have appreciated that when they started college, right? Or moving in with your significant other? Yeah, okay. So we sit them down and we talk about, obvious things like conflict management. How are we respecting each other's boundaries? Let's set some expectations on roles and responsibilities. And these can be even kind of non-work things like how are we dealing with the bathroom cleanup on board, right? Everything, there's nothing off limits, really. And so when they get up to Mars, we also, again, need them to self-correct in this roommate living situation. And so one way we think about doing this is a team debrief. So typically, if you guys do debriefs in your team, you talk about the task or an event, what went right, what went wrong. But here, it's interpersonal, it's personal issues as well. So you could be asking each other, are you getting enough sleep? Are you exercising? I've noticed you haven't been talking to the team for the past couple of days. What's going on? How are you doing with missing your friends and family? So really, those boundaries are much more expanded. And again, that requires a psychologically safe space in which to have those tough conversations. And so we can kick these debriefs off on regular events. So spacewalk, or we call them EVAs. Those are major events you'll want to debrief after. But somebody could also go to the software program that we're developing, hit a button and say, hey, I got something on my chest and I want to take care of it with our team, but I don't want to feel like the squeaky wheel, so anonymously click the button. Now everyone's prompted to answer a couple questions, and the software program spits back a discussion guide. And so it's going to help that team have this tough conversation. And that way, you set some new boundaries, you get back on the same page, right? So when we're talking about all these tools, this training, and I only mentioned a couple big things today, we have lots going on here. It's really about this psychological readiness. And the psychological readiness isn't just about adaptation and resilience and just kind of surviving in this mission. It's also about mission performance and safety. And that could mean making sure your teammate has the right shoes on the right feet before they walk out of their vehicle, right? This is an actual picture from a mission, yeah. So when you're standing on Mars and you're looking at this little blue dot, and this is actually a picture from the surface of Mars, and you see that Earth so far away, you realize that help is very far away too. And so you really have to rely on your fellow teammates, right? And of course, we're not all in this extreme environment, cut off from everybody, but we can, of course, take care of our teammates. We can, of course, create a safe space in which to have tough conversations and to support each other. And that's really a universal concept. Thank you.